When you pressed play on this audiobook, you made a choice that contradicts everything your nervous system has been programmed to believe for the past 40 or 50 years of your life. You chose to pause when the world is screaming at you to keep moving, and that single decision is significant in ways you don't yet understand. Your nervous system is already beginning to register something different. Not threat, not crisis, not another demand. And that recognition itself will become important before this journey ends. This is a book about why the hardest you've ever worked doesn't match the results you've created, why your intentions don't stick, and why your body seems to be working against every goal you set. It's not about trying harder, because trying harder is exactly what's failed you so far. Instead, this book will reveal something that changes everything about how you understand your own life. The hidden role that chronic tension plays in keeping you stuck in patterns you've been fighting against for years. There was a man named David who spent 45 years becoming the person everyone thought he should be. He woke at 5 in the morning without an alarm. His body trained through decades of discipline to respond to obligation rather than rest. David built a successful career through sheer force of will, made the right decisions at the right times, married the right woman, raised the right children, and achieved what the world measures as success. But David's body had been in a state of constant readiness for so long that his nervous system no longer knew how to interpret safety. It only understood threat and the need to prepare for the next crisis. Then one afternoon, without warning, David's body forced him to understand what his mind had been denying. His heart stopped for 17 seconds. The ambulance came. The doctors said he was fortunate. So fortunate that the paramedics arrived when they did. So fortunate that his body responded to CPR. So fortunate that at 45, he hadn't suffered permanent damage. But as David lay in that hospital bed, he realized something that terrified him more than the infarction itself. His body had been trying to tell him something for 20 years, and he hadn't listened. His shoulders had been raised toward his ears. His jaw had been perpetually clenched. His breathing had been shallow and chest-based rather than full and diaphragmatic. His muscles had been locked in a state of preparation for danger that never came. The cardiologist called it stress-related. The therapist called it burnout. David called it life, because he had never known anything else. But here's what matters. David had been trying harder than almost anyone his doctors had ever seen, and trying harder had brought him to a hospital bed at 45, reconnecting with a body he had learned to ignore somewhere around age 25. This is the paradox that this book exists to solve. You cannot think your way out of what your body has learned through decades of repetition. You cannot willpower yourself into a different nervous system state. You cannot motivation your way into genuine change when your entire physiology is committed to keeping you in the familiar pattern of chronic tension. Because that tension has kept you alive, kept you functioning, kept you achieving, even if it's also kept you exhausted. What you're about to discover is that your body is not your enemy, even though it feels that way sometimes. Your body is actually trying to protect you. It's just using an operating system that was designed for a different kind of world, a world where threats were immediate and visible and required your constant vigilance. That protective mechanism, which once kept your ancestors alive, now keeps you stuck in patterns of tension that make genuine change feel impossible. The truth that will reshape how you understand your own life is this: trying harder doesn't work because your body hasn't learned to relax. And until your nervous system recognizes that it's genuinely safe to let go, until your muscles remember what actual relaxation feels like, you will continue to carry tension into every new goal, every new relationship, every new attempt at transformation. You'll change your thinking, update your beliefs, commit to new behaviors, and your body will drag you right back into the familiar. Because the familiar is what your nervous system has learned to associate with survival. This audiobook will teach you 3 things that will fundamentally shift how you experience your own capacity for change. First, you'll learn to notice the difference between tension and relaxation, a skill so basic that most people have completely lost it, yet so powerful that recovering it changes everything about what's possible in your life. Second, you'll discover the specific mechanisms in your nervous system that keep you trapped in cycles of stress and poor decisions. And you'll understand them not as character flaws, but as biology, as the predictable response of a system that's trying to keep you safe. Third, you'll learn practical, concrete ways to signal to your nervous system that safety is possible. Not through willpower or discipline or trying harder, but through direct nervous system practices that work at the level where real change actually happens. The path forward isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally allowing your body to catch up with the person your mind has been trying to become all these years. It's about learning that the breakthrough you've been seeking isn't waiting at the end of another goal or another achievement. It's available right now, in your capacity to notice and release the tension you're carrying. So settle in completely and let this journey begin. Your nervous system is already listening, already beginning to recognize that in this moment, right now, there is nothing you need to achieve. Chapter 2. How stress becomes the architecture of your body. Your body is a record of your life. Not metaphorically, literally. Every significant period of stress, every sustained state of anxiety, every year spent in high-intensity pressure leaves a physical imprint on your skeleton, your muscles, your organs, and your nervous system itself. The way you carry your shoulders tells a story about what you've been carrying emotionally. The tension in your jaw reflects decades of words you didn't say and boundaries you didn't set. The curvature of your spine documents the weight of responsibilities you've been bearing. Most people don't realize this until they look at an old photograph of themselves from a time when life was genuinely lighter. The posture was different then, and the expression was lighter. But what really strikes you most is something harder to name. A kind of ease that seems to have left your body somewhere around the time life got serious. What you're seeing in that photograph is the difference between a nervous system that felt relatively safe and a nervous system that has learned to live in a state of constant preparation. The transformation happens gradually, so gradually that you don't notice it occurring. There's no single moment when you suddenly become tense. Instead, there's a series of stressful events, or a sustained period of pressure, or a cumulative weight of responsibilities that your nervous system learns to interpret as the new normal. Your muscles tighten around your neck and shoulders as a way of bracing against threat. Your breathing becomes shallower, centered in your chest rather than in your belly. Because shallow breathing is what happens when your body is in a state of alert. Your jaw clenches because tension in the jaw is part of the fight response. It's your body preparing to bite, to fight, to defend. But here's what happens over time that most people don't understand. This tension becomes structural. It's not just a temporary state that you'll return from when the crisis passes. After months and years of chronic tension, your muscles actually start to remodel themselves. The muscle fibers shorten. The fascia, the connective tissue that surrounds your muscles, becomes tight and restricted. Your nervous system literally learns a new baseline, a new normal posture that incorporates all of this tension as the default setting. You're not just tense in moments of stress anymore. You're tense as a baseline state of being. This is when tension transforms from something you experience into something you are. You stop saying, "I feel tense," and you start saying, "I am tense." Your identity begins to include this chronic state of muscle tension as just the way you're built, the way you're wired, the way you naturally are. And your body believes this story about itself. So it keeps reproducing the same patterns, the same postures, the same baseline tension, because that's what it has learned to expect. The problem is that this structural tension fundamentally changes how you think and how you make decisions. When your upper back and shoulders are chronically tight, when your breathing is habitually shallow, when your nervous system baseline is set to threat detected, your brain receives constant signals that the world is not safe. Those signals aren't true. You're not actually in danger. But your nervous system doesn't care about truth. It cares about the information it's receiving from your body, and the information your chronically tense body is sending is, something is wrong. Stay alert. Don't relax. This creates a vicious cycle that most people don't recognize. Your body is tense because of accumulated stress from your past. Your body's tension sends signals to your brain that you're still under threat. Your brain believes those signals and continues to activate your stress response systems. Your stress response systems cause more tension. Your tension causes more alarm signals. And round you go, in a cycle that has nothing to do with what's actually happening in your present life. You could be sitting safely at home, with no real threats anywhere around you. And your nervous system could still be generating a stress response because your body is so chronically tense that it's constantly signaling danger. You might intellectually know that you're safe. You might know that everything in your life is fine. But your body doesn't know that. Because your body is locked in a pattern of chronic tension that it learned years ago and has been faithfully reproducing ever since. This is why so many intelligent, capable people find themselves unable to relax, even when they have every reason to relax. They go on vacation, and instead of genuinely unwinding, they lie awake thinking about work. They go to therapy and hear advice about self-care, but their body is too tense to actually absorb real rest. They take a day off and spend it in low-grade anxiety because their nervous system doesn't actually know how to stop preparing for the next threat. Their body has become the architecture of their stress. And that architecture doesn't shift just because the circumstances of their life have changed. The crucial realization is this. The tension in your body isn't just a side effect of stress. It's not just something that happens to you when you're under pressure. The tension in your body is the stress. It's the physical manifestation of what your nervous system has learned to believe about the world and about safety. Your body has quite literally become shaped by your history of stress, and that shape determines the baseline from which everything else emerges. When you carry chronic tension, it affects everything. It affects how much oxygen reaches your brain. Shallow breathing means less oxygen, which means your brain can't think as clearly. It affects your emotional state. When your muscles are chronically contracted, your nervous system is more reactive, more triggered, more prone to over-responding to minor stressors. It affects your relationships. People respond to the energy your body is projecting. And the energy of chronic tension is unconsciously interpreted as being under threat, which makes others uncomfortable even if you're not aware you're projecting that energy. Most critically, chronic muscle tension affects your decision-making and your capacity for genuine change. When your body is locked in a defensive posture, when your nervous system is running a constant background program of danger detected, your brain literally cannot access the parts of itself that are responsible for creativity, flexibility, long-term planning, and the kind of nuanced thinking that genuine transformation requires. Your brain goes into survival mode, and survival mode is designed for immediate threats, not for the kind of complex problem-solving that change actually demands. This is why trying harder doesn't work when your body is chronically tense. You're trying to create change while your nervous system is actively preventing change. You're trying to implement new behaviors while your body is locked in the old patterns that feel safe. You're trying to think your way into a different future while your body is constantly sending alarm signals that keep pulling you back into the familiar present. The path forward requires something different than trying harder. It requires unwinding the tension that has become structural in your body. It requires teaching your muscles what relaxation actually feels like, so that your nervous system can finally receive information from your body that says, you are safe. You can let go. Only when your body learns a different baseline, only when your nervous system can hold a state of genuine relaxation as the normal condition rather than as an anomaly, can you finally create the kind of stable, sustainable change that genuine transformation requires. Chapter 3. The Forgotten Skill. Feeling the Difference. Let me ask you something right now, in this moment. Don't answer me, just do this. Squeeze your right hand into a tight fist and hold it clenched for exactly 2 minutes. Don't rush through this. Actually do it. Feel the sensation of the muscles in your hand contracting, the tension running up through your forearm, the hardness of the fist you've created. Pay attention to how this feels in your body. Now, after those 2 minutes have passed, slowly open your hand. Relax all the muscles. Let your fingers extend naturally, and notice the sensation that floods through your hand as you release that tension. Feel the difference between the clenched state and the open state. Notice how different your hand feels now compared to just moments ago. That difference, that dramatic shift from contracted to released, is everything. That difference is the entire foundation of this book, and most people have completely lost the ability to feel it. This is the forgotten skill that separates people who can create genuine change in their lives from people who remain stuck in the same patterns, no matter how hard they try. The skill is simple, and it's something your body knew how to do naturally when you were young. It's the ability to distinguish between tension and relaxation, between activation and rest, between your nervous system running in high gear and your nervous system settling into a state of genuine safety. But here's what happens to most people over decades of living in chronic stress. That sensitivity gradually fades. You stop noticing the difference between tense and relaxed because you're almost always tense. The baseline shifts so gradually that you don't realize it's happening. Your relaxed state becomes what used to be your moderately stressed state. Your normal becomes what used to be your high alert. And eventually, the distinction between tension and relaxation becomes so blurred that most people can't even feel the difference anymore. If you try to relax right now without any training or guidance, what happens? You might lie down and try to think calm thoughts. You might tell your body to relax. You might take some deep breaths. But if your nervous system has been chronically activated for years or decades, none of these mental strategies will actually work. Because the problem isn't in your mind, it's in your body. Your body has learned a pattern, and that pattern is running in the background of your nervous system constantly, independent of what your conscious mind is trying to do. This is why trying to relax through willpower fails for so many people. They think, I need to relax. And then they try to force their body into relaxation, which creates even more tension. They grip their relaxation the way they grip everything else in their lives, with force, with effort, with the same trying harder mentality that has shaped their entire existence. But you cannot force relaxation. You cannot willpower your way into a genuine parasympathetic state. What you can do is learn to recognize what relaxation actually feels like in your body, so that when your nervous system experiences it, you know what you're experiencing. The problem is that most people have forgotten what real relaxation feels like. Not sleep, that's different. Not distraction, that's not the same thing. Real relaxation is a state where your muscles are genuinely soft, where your breathing is full and natural, where your nervous system has finally stopped scanning for threats. It's a state where your shoulders can actually descend away from your ears. It's a state where your jaw can unclench. It's a state where your breathing can come from your belly instead of your chest. It's a state where your mind can actually settle into genuine quiet instead of constantly spinning. Here's what most people don't understand. Your body needs to remember what this state feels like before you can actually access it in your daily life. And the way your body remembers is through direct physical experience. Not through thinking about it or reading about it or understanding it intellectually. Your nervous system learns through experience. Your muscles learn through practice. Your body learns through sensation. This is why the next practice you're going to do is so important. It's not a meditation. It doesn't require you to clear your mind or sit in a special way or do anything that feels unnatural. It's simply going to help your body remember what genuine relaxation actually feels like so that when you experience it in the future, you'll recognize it. And once you recognize it, once you can feel the difference between your chronically tense baseline and genuine relaxation, something fundamental shifts. The practice is called progressive muscle relaxation, and it works by deliberately tensing and then releasing different muscle groups in your body. It sounds simple because it is simple, but don't let the simplicity fool you. What you're doing is giving your nervous system direct evidence that relaxation is possible. You're teaching your body that it can transition from tension to relaxation. You're creating a visceral memory in your muscles of what letting go actually feels like. When you tense a muscle deliberately and then release it, something interesting happens in your nervous system. The contrast between the two states becomes unmistakably clear. Your body can't miss the difference. Unlike trying to relax through willpower, where your chronically tense baseline makes it almost impossible to feel any change, this practice creates such an obvious shift that even a nervous system that's been in chronic tension for years can recognize it. The key is that this isn't about achieving perfect relaxation or doing it right. This is about your nervous system beginning to recognize the possibility of a different state. This is about your muscles experiencing, even briefly, what it feels like to not be contracted. This is about creating a baseline memory in your body that genuine relaxation exists and is available to you. Most people who do this practice for the first time are surprised by what they discover. They might realize that their shoulders are much more tense than they thought. They might discover that their jaw is clenched in a way they were completely unaware of. They might be shocked at how much tension is living in their body that they had simply learned to ignore. This awareness itself is transformative. Once you notice something, once you become conscious of it, you can begin to address it. But as long as you're completely unaware of the tension you're carrying, you can't do anything about it. This is the first crucial step on the path toward genuine change. What matters now is learning to feel the difference between tension and relaxation with such clarity that your nervous system can finally recognize and remember it. Once your nervous system knows that relaxation is possible, once your body has experienced what it feels like to let go, the entire dynamic begins to shift. You're not just gaining intellectual understanding. You're creating a neurological foundation upon which all the rest of your transformation will be built. The meditation that follows is designed to teach your body exactly this skill. It will guide you through deliberately tensing and releasing different muscle groups, creating that unmistakable contrast that your nervous system needs in order to learn. Don't rush through this. Let yourself actually experience each phase. Your body is about to receive permission to relax in a way it may not have felt in years. And that permission matters more than you realize.
Meditation, progressive muscle relaxation. Find a comfortable place where you can lie down or sit without being disturbed for the next 10 to 15 minutes. You might want to dim the lights or close the curtains if that feels comfortable to you. The most important thing is that you allow yourself to be fully present with what's about to happen, without distractions, without your phone, without the usual demands on your attention. This time is for you, and your nervous system needs you to mean that. When you're ready, settle into a comfortable position. You can lie on your back on a bed or a carpet, or you can sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor and your arms resting on your thighs. There's no wrong way to do this. What matters is that you feel supported, that your body can relax without having to hold itself up against gravity. Once you found your position, take a moment to notice how your body feels right now before we begin. Don't try to change anything, just notice. Begin by taking a few natural breaths. Your breathing doesn't need to be deep or special or different from how you normally breathe. Just let yourself notice your breath moving in and out of your body. You might notice the air entering through your nostrils. Or you might notice your chest rising and falling. Or you might notice your belly expanding and contracting. Wherever you notice your breath most easily, let that be your anchor. You're not trying to control your breathing, you're just noticing it. Now I want you to bring your attention to your right hand. Make a tight fist with your right hand, squeezing as hard as you comfortably can. Tense all the muscles in your right forearm and upper arm. Hold this tension and notice exactly how it feels. Notice the hardness, the contraction, the effort required to maintain this state. This is what chronic tension feels like when you're conscious of it. Hold this fist for about 5 seconds, really noticing the sensation. Now slowly release the tension in your right hand. Let your fingers open. Let your arm become completely limp and heavy. Notice the sensation that floods through your hand and forearm as you release the tension. Feel the difference between the clenched state you just experienced and this released state. Your hand might feel warm or tingly or heavy or relaxed. Whatever you're feeling is exactly right. Spend a moment just noticing the contrast between tension and relaxation in your right hand and arm. Now bring the same attention to your left hand. Make a tight fist with your left hand, tensing all the muscles in your left forearm and upper arm. Squeeze as hard as you comfortably can and hold this tension for about 5 seconds. Notice how it feels, then slowly release, letting your fingers open and your arm become completely limp and heavy. Notice the sensation of relaxation flooding through your left hand and arm Feel the difference. Your nervous system is beginning to recognize the contrast between these two states. Now move your attention to your right leg. Tense all the muscles in your right leg by pointing your toes away from you and tightening your calf, your thigh, and your buttock. Create as much tension as you can in your right leg and hold it for about 5 seconds. Notice how this feels, then release all that tension. Let your right leg become heavy and limp and completely relaxed. Notice the sensation of release. Your muscles know how to let go, and you're teaching your nervous system to recognize when they do. Now do the same with your left leg. Tense all the muscles in your left leg by pointing your toes away from you and tightening your calf, your thigh, and your buttock. Hold this tension for about 5 seconds, really noticing the effort and the contraction. Then slowly release all the tension. Let your left leg become heavy and completely relaxed. Feel the difference between the tense state and the relaxed state. Now bring your attention to your abdominal muscles. Tighten your belly as if you're bracing for a punch. Pull your abdominal muscles in towards your spine and hold this tension for about 5 seconds. Notice what this feels like, then release. Let your belly become soft and relaxed and completely at ease. This is what happens when your nervous system finally feels safe enough to soften the protective tension around your core. Now tense your chest muscles. Take a deep breath and hold it, keeping your chest muscles contracted. Hold this for about 5 seconds, then release your breath and let your chest relax completely. Let your breathing return to its natural rhythm. Feel your chest becoming softer, more open, more receptive. Bring your attention to your shoulders. Raise your shoulders up towards your ears, tensing all the muscles in your shoulders and the upper part of your back. Hold this tension for about 5 seconds. This is where so many people carry their stress, and you're becoming conscious of that tension right now. Then slowly lower your shoulders down and let all the tension release. Feel your shoulders dropping away from your ears, becoming heavy and relaxed and completely at ease. Now bring your attention to your neck. Gently tilt your head back slightly, tensing the muscles in your neck. Hold this for about 5 seconds. Then release, letting your head return to a neutral position and feeling all the tension drain out of your neck. Your neck can be soft and relaxed and completely supported. tense your jaw by clenching your teeth together tightly. Hold this tension for about 5 seconds, noticing how much effort it takes to hold your jaw clenched. Then release, letting your teeth part slightly and your jaw become completely relaxed. Your jaw doesn't have to guard anything. It can be soft and open and at ease. Now squeeze your eyes tightly shut, tensing all the muscles around your eyes. Hold this for about 5 seconds. Then release, letting your eyes relax behind your eyelids. Feel the softness around your eyes. The constant effort of holding tension around your eyes can finally rest. Now wrinkle your forehead, tensing all the muscles across the top of your head. Hold this for about 5 seconds. Then release, feeling your forehead become smooth and relaxed. All the worry that lives in your forehead can finally settle. Take a moment now and scan through your entire body. Notice the difference between how your body feels right now and how it felt before we began. You may notice that you feel heavier or warmer or more relaxed or more peaceful. You might notice that your breathing has become deeper or slower. You might notice that your mind has become quieter. Whatever you're noticing is exactly right, and it's all evidence that your nervous system is learning that relaxation is possible. Your body has just experienced, directly and unmistakably, the difference between tension and relaxation. Your muscles have felt what it's like to let go. Your nervous system has received proof that safety is possible. This experience is real, and it's available to you whenever you need it. Your body will remember this. The memory of this relaxation is now stored in your nervous system. And you can return to it again and again. Whenever you're ready and there's no rush, you can stay here as long as you want. You can begin to bring your awareness back to the room around you. You might start by deepening your breath slightly. You might become aware of the ground or the chair supporting you. You might begin to notice sounds around you. Let yourself return at your own pace, bringing with you the memory of genuine relaxation, the knowledge that your body knows how to let go, and the understanding that this state is available to you whenever you choose to access it. When you're ready, you can gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. You can stretch your arms and your legs. You can open your eyes whenever it feels natural to do so. As you return to your day, carry with you what your body has just learned. That relaxation isn't something you have to force or earn or deserve. It's something your nervous system is capable of. And the proof of that lives in your body right now.
Chapter 4. The 3 Levels of Tension. Now that your body has experienced what genuine relaxation feels like, now that your nervous system has received direct evidence that a different state is possible, we need to talk about something that most people don't understand about the tension they're carrying. Tension isn't one thing. It's not a single uniform experience that feels the same way in every person and every situation. Tension exists on a spectrum, and understanding where you fall on that spectrum is crucial if you want to know whether you're making progress or whether you're simply going through the motions of trying harder again. There are 3 distinct levels of tension that human nervous systems can experience, and most people who've lived with chronic stress for decades are actually cycling through all 3 without realizing it. They might spend most of their days at level 2, spike up to level 3 during stressful moments, and occasionally drop down to level 1 when they're completely exhausted and their system finally gives up. The problem is that they're measuring their progress by whether they can temporarily access level 1, without realizing that what they really need is to shift their baseline so that level 2 becomes their new normal. The first level is what we might call structural tension. This is the baseline tension that your nervous system has learned to associate with normal functioning. This is the tension you woke up with this morning, the tension you carry through your day without really noticing it. The tension that feels so familiar that you've stopped calling it tension and started calling it just the way you are. When you're at structural tension, your shoulders are slightly raised, your jaw might be slightly clenched, your breathing might be slightly shallow. But none of this feels like a problem because it's what you're used to. Structural tension is insidious precisely because it's invisible. You can go through an entire day at structural tension and never consciously notice that you're tense. You might think you're relaxed because you're not in active crisis mode. But compared to what genuine relaxation feels like, which you just experienced in the previous meditation, structural tension is a state of constant, subtle bracing. Your nervous system is running in the background saying, "Stay alert. Something might happen. Don't fully let go." And you're living your entire life with your nervous system sending that message. Which means you're making all your decisions, all your choices, all your efforts from a state that's fundamentally limited. The second level is what we might call situational tension. This is the tension that emerges when you encounter something that your nervous system interprets as a threat or a challenge. Maybe you have a difficult conversation coming up, or you get bad news, or you face a deadline, or you encounter something unexpected. When situational tension emerges, it's noticeable. Your shoulders might tense up noticeably. Your jaw might clench. Your breathing might become shallow. Your mind might start spinning. This is your nervous system's way of preparing you to deal with whatever challenge has emerged. Situational tension is actually appropriate in many cases. It's designed to give you the resources you need to handle genuine challenges. The problem is that when your baseline is already at structural tension, when your nervous system is already running a background program of stay alert, adding situational tension on top of that creates a compounding effect. You're not just responding to the current situation. You're responding from a platform that's already elevated. And because you're starting from an already elevated baseline, your nervous system can't actually distinguish between a genuine emergency and a minor inconvenience. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels dangerous. Everything triggers the same level of response. The third level is what we might call acute tension. This is the tension that emerges during genuine crisis or extreme threat. This is your nervous system in full fight or flight activation. Your heart racing, your breathing rapid and shallow, your muscles ready to act, your mind laser focused on the threat in front of you. Acute tension is designed for survival situations. It's designed to give you the resources you need to escape a predator or survive an accident or handle a genuine emergency. But here's where the problem becomes clear. In modern life, most people are almost never experiencing genuine acute tension from real threats. Instead, they're experiencing situational tension in response to everyday challenges, while their baseline is already at structural tension. And because their baseline is elevated, their nervous system interprets these everyday challenges as if they were genuine emergencies. They respond to a difficult email with the same level of activation they would need for a life-threatening situation. They approach a conversation with a family member with the same internal alarm that would be appropriate for facing down a dangerous animal. Their nervous system is constantly miscalibrating the level of threat relative to the actual situation. This is why you might find yourself overreacting to minor stressors. This is why you might snap at someone you love over something small, and then afterward wonder why you responded so intensely. This is why you might lie awake at night, thinking about something embarrassing you said years ago, your nervous system treating that memory as if it were a current threat. Your baseline structural tension is so elevated that your situational tension responses are disproportionate to what's actually happening. The crucial insight is this: you cannot fix situational tension and acute tension responses while your structural tension remains at the level it's at. You can learn all the breathing techniques you want. You can practice all the stress management strategies you want. You can commit to meditation and exercise and all the things that are supposed to help. But if your baseline structural tension remains unchanged, you'll keep over-responding to situational stress because your nervous system is starting from an elevated platform. This is why trying harder doesn't work. You're trying to fix the problem at the level of situational and acute tension, while the real problem is structural tension. You're trying to manage your responses to stress while your body's baseline is set to constant readiness. It's like trying to lower the volume on a speaker while someone is continuously turning the master volume up. You're making some progress at the detail level, but you're not actually solving the fundamental problem. The path forward requires something different. It requires understanding that the real work is not about managing your stress responses. It's about lowering your structural baseline. It requires teaching your nervous system that safety is so fundamentally possible that your body doesn't need to spend all day and all night in a state of bracing and preparation. It requires shifting from a baseline of structural tension to a baseline of genuine relaxation. And here's the good news. Your nervous system is capable of learning this. The meditation you just completed gave you direct evidence that relaxation exists. Now the work is about making that relaxation your new normal, your new baseline, your new structural state. Once your structural baseline drops, once your body learns to live in a state of genuine ease rather than constant bracing, everything else shifts. Situational tension becomes proportionate to the actual situation. Acute tension emerges only when there's an actual emergency. Your nervous system finally learns to distinguish between real threats and perceived threats. This is the foundation upon which everything else in this book is built. This is why the practices and the techniques we're going to explore matter. They're not designed to help you manage stress better while keeping your baseline the same. They're designed to fundamentally reset what your nervous system considers normal, what your body considers safe, what your baseline level of tension should be. Once that baseline shifts, you're not trying harder anymore. You're simply operating from a different platform entirely. Chapter 5. The missing piece, interoception. There's a word that most people have never heard, a concept that neuroscientists have been studying for decades. and a skill that will change your relationship with your own body more profoundly than anything else you could possibly learn. The word is interoception, and it literally means sensing inward. It's the ability to perceive what's happening inside your own body, not through your eyes or your ears, but through a network of sensory receptors that are constantly sending signals from your body to your brain about what's actually going on in there. You have 5 senses that everyone talks about: sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. But you have another sense, one that's just as important and often more important, that most people have never been taught to develop. Interoception is your ability to sense your heartbeat, your breathing, your hunger, your thirst, your temperature, your muscle tension, your emotional state as it's reflected in your body. It's the sense that tells you when you need to eat, when you're thirsty, when you're tired, when you're anxious, when you're safe. It's the sense that connects your body's signals with your conscious awareness. Most people have almost completely lost this sense. They eat when they're not hungry because they're distracted or because it's mealtime. They ignore their body's signals of thirst until they're extremely dehydrated. They push through exhaustion because they've trained themselves not to listen to the signals their body is sending about needing rest. They're completely disconnected from the subtle signals that their nervous system is sending about whether a situation is safe or dangerous, whether they're approaching their limits or whether they have more capacity. And here's where the connection to everything we've been discussing becomes clear. If you can't sense what's happening in your body, you can't change it. If you can't feel the tension you're carrying, you can't release it. If you can't perceive the subtle signals your nervous system is sending, you can't respond to them. You're essentially trying to navigate in the dark, operating a vehicle without any instruments, trying to understand what's happening without access to the feedback your body is constantly trying to provide. Think about someone who has been chronically tense for decades. Their structural baseline of tension has become so normal that they literally cannot feel it anymore. When asked to relax, they might think they're relaxing when actually they're still carrying significant tension. They just can't perceive it because their interoceptive sense has atrophied from years of ignoring their body's signals. They've trained themselves not to listen, and now their nervous system has learned to stop trying to send them clear signals. It's a form of dissociation that most people don't recognize as dissociation because it feels like normal functioning. This is why the meditation you did earlier is so important. When you deliberately tense and release different muscle groups, you're creating such an obvious signal that even an atrophied interoceptive sense can perceive it. You're forcing a contrast so dramatic that your nervous system can't miss it. But the real work is about developing your interoceptive sense so that you can perceive the subtle signals your body is sending all throughout the day, so that you can notice when you're starting to tense up, so that you can feel when your nervous system is beginning to activate, so that you can respond to these signals before they become full-blown stress responses. Interoception is what allows you to catch the early warning signs. Your body doesn't just suddenly explode into anger or anxiety without warning. There are subtle signals leading up to that explosion. Maybe your breathing is beginning to shallow. Maybe your jaw is starting to clench. Maybe there's a tightening in your chest. Maybe your shoulders are beginning to rise. These are all signals that your nervous system is beginning to activate. If you can feel these early warning signs through better interoception, you can intervene at that moment. You can take a conscious breath. You can relax your jaw. You can consciously lower your shoulders. You can shift the trajectory before it becomes a full-blown activation. But if you can't feel these subtle signals, if your interoceptive sense is so atrophied that you don't notice the early warning signs until it's too late, then you're always reacting after the fact. You're always in crisis management mode. You're always playing catch-up, trying to manage a stress response that's already in full activation. When what you really need is to be able to perceive the early signals and intervene before the cascade begins. This is why developing interoception is not optional if you want genuine change. It's the missing piece that makes everything else possible. You can know all the right information. You can understand how your nervous system works. You can intellectually grasp why trying harder doesn't work. But if you can't perceive what's actually happening in your own body, all of that knowledge is useless. You'll still be operating in the dark, guided only by the emergency signals, anger, anxiety, overwhelm, that emerge when your nervous system is already in full activation. The good news is that interoception is a skill that can be developed. It's not something you're born with or born without. It's something you can train and strengthen and improve. Every time you pause and notice what's happening in your body, every time you feel your heartbeat, every time you notice your breathing, every time you sense the tension in your shoulders, you're strengthening your interoceptive sense. You're training your brain to pay attention to the signals your body is constantly sending. And here's what happens when you start developing stronger interoception. You begin to feel your nervous system shifting in real time. You start to notice the moment your shoulders begin to rise. You start to feel the tightening in your chest before it becomes full anxiety. You start to perceive the clenching in your jaw before it becomes full tension. And because you're perceiving these signals, because you're aware of them in the moment they're happening, you suddenly have choice. You suddenly have the ability to respond rather than react. You suddenly have the capacity to shift the trajectory. This is what separates people who can create genuine change from people who remain stuck. It's not willpower. It's not motivation. It's not trying harder. It's the ability to perceive what's happening in their body so clearly that they can respond to the early signals before the cascade becomes overwhelming. It's interoception, the sense that connects you to your own internal experience so intimately that you can finally navigate your own life with full awareness and full agency. Everything that follows in this book is designed to strengthen your interoceptive sense and to teach your nervous system to respond differently to the signals it receives. Because once you can feel what's happening in your body, once you've developed the skill of interoception, the actual practices and techniques become far more powerful. You're not just doing them mechanically. You're doing them with full awareness of what's shifting, with full understanding of the signals your body is sending, with full perception of the changes that are occurring. Chapter 6. The first practice, body scan for awareness. Now that you understand what interoception is, now that you recognize why developing this skill is fundamental to everything else, we can begin the first of 5 practices that will transform how you perceive and interact with your own body. This practice is called the body scan, and it's deceptively simple, so simple that most people dismiss it as too basic to actually matter. But if you approach it with the understanding that you're training your interoceptive sense, that you're teaching your nervous system to perceive what's actually happening inside your body, then this practice becomes profoundly powerful. The body scan is different from the progressive muscle relaxation you experienced earlier. In that meditation, you were actively tensing and releasing muscles, creating obvious contrasts that your nervous system could perceive. In the body scan, you're doing something different. You're simply bringing your attention to different parts of your body and noticing what's there without trying to change anything. You're not trying to relax. You're not trying to fix anything. You're simply developing the capacity to feel what's actually present in your body right now. The reason this matters so much is that most people go through their entire day without ever actually noticing what's happening in their body. They're focused on what they need to do, on what's happening around them, on their thoughts and their plans and their worries. But their body is constantly sending signals. Signals about tension, about fatigue, about emotion, about whether their nervous system feels safe or threatened. Those signals are there, but if you're not paying attention to them, they're essentially invisible to you. When you do a body scan, you're systematically bringing your attention through different regions of your body and asking a very simple question. What's here? Not what should be here, not what was here yesterday, not what you wish was here, but what's actually here right now. You're developing the skill of perception, the capacity to feel what is rather than what you think should be. And this capacity is fundamental to everything that follows. Here's what's crucial to understand. You cannot change what you cannot perceive. If you're not aware that your shoulders are raised, you can't lower them. If you're not aware that your jaw is clenched, you can't unclench it. If you're not aware that your breathing is shallow and chest-based rather than belly-based, you can't shift it. The body scan is the foundational practice that makes all the other practices possible, because it's the practice that develops your capacity to perceive. Most people find that when they do a body scan for the first time, they discover things about their body that surprise them. They might realize their shoulders are much more tense than they thought. They might discover that their hands are cold, that their legs are numb, that there's tension in places they weren't even aware had the capacity to be tense. This discovery is the beginning of change. Once you know that your shoulders are raised, you have the option to lower them. Once you discover that your jaw is clenched, you have the choice to unclench it. But without that awareness, you're stuck. The body scan also teaches you something else that's crucial. Different parts of your body hold different information, and some parts of your body are more connected to your emotions than others. Your chest, for instance, often holds emotional information. If you're anxious, you might notice tightness in your chest. If you're sad, you might notice heaviness there. Your jaw often holds information about emotions you're not expressing, anger that you're not voicing, words you're not saying, boundaries you're not setting. Your belly often holds information about fear or dread. Your shoulders often hold information about burden and responsibility. As you develop the skill of scanning your body, you begin to understand that your body is not just a physical structure. It's an emotional archive. Your body remembers things your mind has forgotten. Your body holds emotions that you've learned not to express. Your body carries the weight of experiences that happened years ago. And if you can learn to read the messages your body is sending, you gain access to information about yourself that your conscious mind doesn't have. This is why the body scan is so much more than just a relaxation technique. It's a gateway to self-understanding. It's a way of developing the skill of interoception. It's a practice that teaches you to perceive what's actually happening inside your body, so that you can begin to respond to it consciously, rather than being controlled by it unconsciously. The way to practice the body scan is simple. You can do it lying down or sitting. It doesn't matter. You can do it for 5 minutes or for 20 minutes. You can do it in the morning or the evening or in the middle of the day. The only requirement is that you give yourself enough time to move slowly through your body without rushing, and that you bring genuine curiosity to what you find rather than judgment. You start at the top of your head and slowly move your attention downward through your body. At each point, you simply notice what's there. Is there tension or relaxation? Warmth or coolness? Sensation or numbness? Movement or stillness? You're not trying to change anything. You're just observing. You're developing the capacity to feel. You're training your nervous system to perceive the signals it's constantly sending. The challenge that many people face with the body scan is staying present. Your mind might wander. You might start thinking about what you need to do next, or what happened earlier today, or what you're worried about. This is completely normal and completely expected. When you notice that your mind has wandered, you simply bring your attention back to whatever part of your body you're supposed to be noticing. That's not failure. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. Every time you notice your mind has wandered and bring it back, you're strengthening your interoceptive sense. You're training your brain to stay connected to your body. Some people find that certain parts of their body are easier to perceive than others. Maybe you can easily feel your hands and your feet, but it's harder to feel your belly or your chest. That's information. That tells you something about where you're dissociated, where your attention doesn't naturally go, where you've learned not to feel. These are the areas where your interoceptive sense is weakest, and these are often the areas where important information is being stored. As you practice the body scan regularly, even just 5 or 10 minutes a day, you'll notice that your capacity to perceive becomes more refined. You'll start to notice more subtle sensations. You'll become aware of areas of tension that you didn't notice before. You'll start to feel the moment your nervous system begins to shift, the moment your body begins to respond to a situation, the moment your emotional state is changing. And as this capacity develops, you gain something that most people have completely lost: the ability to perceive what's happening inside you in the moment it's happening, so that you can choose how to respond. This is the foundation. Everything else in this book builds on the capacity you develop through the body scan. The other practices will teach you specific ways to shift your nervous system, specific techniques to release tension, specific methods to signal safety to your body. But none of those practices will be as powerful if you don't have the foundational skill of interoception, the ability to perceive what's actually happening in your body right now. So this practice matters. This is where the real work begins. Chapter 7. The second practice: releasing tension through vibration. There's a practice that's used in some of the most advanced nervous system work, a technique that's rooted in how animals naturally discharge stress, and a method that most modern people have completely forgotten about. It's called somatic shaking or vibrational release, and it's one of the most direct ways to signal to your nervous system that the emergency is over and that safety is possible. The fact that you've probably never heard of it is one of the great tragedies of modern stress management, because this practice is remarkably simple and remarkably effective. Think about what happens to a gazelle that has just escaped from a lion. The gazelle doesn't lie down calmly and think peaceful thoughts. Instead, it shakes. It trembles. Its entire body vibrates as it releases the massive amount of activation energy that was mobilized during the threat. Once the shaking stops, the gazelle's nervous system has completed the stress cycle. The activation has been discharged. The nervous system returns to baseline. The animal is ready for the next moment of its life. But human beings have been taught not to shake. We've been taught that trembling is weakness, that shaking is a sign of fear, that visible nervous system discharge is something to be ashamed of or to suppress. So we hold it in. We tighten against it. We try to control it through willpower. And what happens? The activation energy stays in our body. The stress cycle never completes. Our nervous system never gets the signal that the emergency is over. We remain in a state of partial activation, with all that energy locked inside us, literally unable to release it because we've been trained not to. This is why vibrational release is so powerful. When you deliberately shake your body, when you create vibration in your muscles, you're essentially doing what that gazelle does. You're allowing your nervous system to discharge the activation energy that's been stored in your muscles. You're giving your body permission to do what it naturally wants to do. And once you allow that release, something shifts. Your nervous system receives the signal that the emergency is truly over. The practice is so simple that it almost seems impossible that it could be this effective. You stand with your feet about hip-width apart. You slightly bend your knees, and then you let your entire body shake. You don't force it or control it. You simply allow the vibration to happen. Your arms might swing, your legs might tremble, your whole body might oscillate. You're not trying to achieve anything or do it right. You're simply allowing your nervous system to do what it wants to do naturally. What's remarkable is what happens when you allow this vibration. Most people who try this for the first time are surprised by what emerges. They might start shaking and then notice that their body wants to move in certain ways, swaying, bouncing, undulating. They might notice that sounds want to come out. Sighs, groans, maybe even laughter or crying. They might notice that emotions emerge, sometimes sadness, sometimes anger, sometimes relief. All of this is your nervous system completing stress cycles that have been stuck in your body for months or years. The key to this practice is permission. You have to give your body permission to shake, permission to move, permission to make sounds, permission to express whatever wants to be expressed. Most people have spent so much of their lives controlling their nervous system responses that allowing them to happen naturally feels strange or uncomfortable. But that discomfort is just resistance to something your body has been desperate to do all along. Here's what's happening on a neurobiological level. When you shake, you're creating rhythmic movement. Rhythmic movement signals to your vagus nerve, the primary nerve of your parasympathetic nervous system, the nerve responsible for rest and recovery, that you're safe. The vibration creates a kind of massage of your nervous system from the inside. The movement helps to discharge the frozen activation that's locked in your muscles. And the permission to allow this to happen sends a signal to your nervous system that you finally trust yourself, that you're finally allowing your own body's wisdom to guide you. Many people find that vibrational release is most effective when combined with breath awareness. As you shake, you might notice your breathing naturally beginning to change. Your breathing might become deeper, fuller, more diaphragmatic. You might find yourself naturally sighing or groaning as you exhale. All of this is helpful. You're not trying to control your breath. You're simply noticing how your breath wants to move as your body releases the activation. The practice typically lasts somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. You don't need to shake for a long time to get benefit. In fact, shaking for just 1 or 2 minutes can produce significant shifts in your nervous system state. Some people find that they can do this practice once a day. Others might do it multiple times throughout the day, especially at moments when they notice their body beginning to tense up or their nervous system beginning to activate. What makes this practice particularly valuable is that it works at a level that bypasses your conscious mind entirely. You don't have to believe in it. You don't have to understand how it works. You don't have to try to make it happen. You just have to allow your body to do what it naturally wants to do, and your nervous system responds. This is one of the reasons it's so effective for people who are skeptical about mind-body practices. It works regardless of your beliefs about whether it should work. After you finish shaking, you might notice that your body feels different. You might feel more settled, more grounded, more at ease. You might notice that your breathing has become deeper. You might notice that your mind has become quieter. You might notice that you feel lighter, as if something heavy has been released from your body. All of these are signs that your nervous system has completed a stress cycle and returned to baseline. This practice is particularly valuable for releasing tension that's been locked in your body for a long time. The shaking seems to access tension that other practices don't reach. It gets to the deep muscle-holding patterns, the chronic bracing that has become structural in your body. And because it's so direct, because it works at such a fundamental level, it can produce changes that seem almost miraculous to people who've been carrying chronic tension for decades. One of the beautiful aspects of vibrational release is that you can do it anywhere. You can do it in your home and the privacy of your room. You can do it in your car. You can do it before a stressful meeting. You can do it in the morning to activate your nervous system or in the evening to settle it. There's no equipment needed. There's no special location required. It's available to you whenever your nervous system needs to discharge activation. The challenge that some people face with this practice is the sense of vulnerability it requires. Allowing your body to shake, allowing sounds to come out, allowing emotions to surface. This requires a level of self-permission and self-trust that many people haven't developed. But that's precisely why this practice is so valuable. You're not just releasing physical tension. You're rebuilding your relationship with your own body. You're learning to trust your body's wisdom. You're practicing permission and self-acceptance at a cellular level. Chapter 8. The third practice, diaphragmatic breathing. There's a technique so fundamental, so basic, and so profoundly misunderstood that most people go through their entire lives without ever actually doing it correctly. It's breathing. Not the automatic breathing that happens when you're not paying attention, but conscious, deliberate breathing from your diaphragm, the large muscle beneath your lungs that's designed to be the primary driver of your respiratory system. When you learn to breathe diaphragmatically, when you retrain your nervous system to use this muscle the way it was designed to be used, you gain access to one of the most direct ways to signal safety to your body. The problem is that most people have forgotten how to breathe this way. Watch a baby sleep, and you'll see what diaphragmatic breathing looks like. Their belly rises and falls with each breath. Their chest stays relatively still. Their breathing is full and natural and effortless. But somewhere between childhood and adulthood, most people shift to chest breathing. They start to breathe from their upper chest, using their accessory breathing muscles instead of their primary breathing muscle. And this shift, which seems insignificant, fundamentally changes how their nervous system functions when you're in a state of stress or threat. Your breathing naturally becomes shallow and chest-based. Your body is preparing for fight or flight, and shallow, rapid breathing is part of that preparation. It's designed to get oxygen to your muscles quickly so you can respond to the threat. But here's what happens when you spend decades in chronic stress with a baseline of structural tension. Your body learns that chest breathing is normal. You literally forget how to breathe diaphragmatically. Your diaphragm becomes weak from disuse. Your nervous system becomes so accustomed to the chemistry of shallow breathing that deep breathing starts to feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable. This means that your breathing pattern is actually reinforcing your nervous system's belief that you're in a state of constant threat. Every shallow breath you take is sending a signal to your nervous system that says, something is wrong. Stay alert. You're not even aware that you're doing this. You're not consciously thinking, I need to breathe shallowly because I'm anxious. Instead, it's just become your automatic pattern. And that pattern, which started as a response to stress, has now become part of the problem that's keeping you stuck in stress. This is why retraining your breathing is so powerful. When you deliberately shift from chest breathing to diaphragmatic breathing, when you consciously breathe from your belly instead of your chest, you're sending a completely different signal to your nervous system. You're saying, I am safe. I can breathe deeply. I don't need to be in high alert. And because breathing is one of the few bodily functions that's both automatic and under conscious control, You can use your breathing to directly communicate with your nervous system. The mechanics of diaphragmatic breathing are simple. When you breathe in, your diaphragm contracts and moves downward, creating space for your lungs to expand. As your lungs expand, your belly naturally extends outward. It doesn't stay flat or get pulled in. This is the opposite of what most people have been taught. Many people have been told to pull their belly in when they breathe, to hold their core tight, to maintain perfect posture. But this actually prevents diaphragmatic breathing. It keeps you locked in chest breathing. It prevents your diaphragm from doing its job. When you exhale, your diaphragm relaxes and moves upward, and your belly naturally comes back in. The whole cycle is rhythmic and natural and effortless once you retrain your nervous system to allow it. The key is permission. You have to give yourself permission to let your belly extend when you inhale, even if you've been taught that this is somehow wrong or undisciplined or not proper. One of the things that makes diaphragmatic breathing so powerful is that it directly activates your vagus nerve, the primary nerve of your parasympathetic nervous system. When you breathe deeply, when your belly expands, you're sending signals through your vagus nerve that tell your nervous system, you are safe. You can relax. The emergency is over. This is not theoretical. This is neurobiology. This is how your nervous system is designed to function. When you breathe diaphragmatically, you're literally using your breath to directly activate the calming systems in your brain and body. Most people find that when they first start practicing diaphragmatic breathing, it feels strange or uncomfortable. They might feel lightheaded or dizzy. They might feel emotional, sometimes sadness, sometimes anxiety, sometimes relief. This is completely normal. Your nervous system has been locked in a pattern for so long that when you start to shift it, it can feel destabilizing at first. But this discomfort is temporary. It's your nervous system adjusting to a new pattern. Within just a few days or weeks of practicing diaphragmatic breathing regularly, it becomes more comfortable and more natural. The practice is deceptively simple. You can do it sitting, lying down, or standing. It doesn't matter. You place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. As you breathe in, you want to feel your belly hand move outward more than your chest hand moves. You're not forcing it. You're simply allowing your diaphragm to do its job. Your chest hand might move a little bit, and that's fine. But the primary movement should be in your belly. As you exhale, your belly naturally comes back in. Many people find it helpful to count their breaths. You might breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and exhale for a count of 6. The longer exhale is particularly important because it activates your parasympathetic nervous system even more directly. But don't make this complicated. The counting is just a tool to help you maintain focus. What matters is that you're breathing from your diaphragm, that you're allowing your belly to extend, that you're giving your nervous system permission to shift into a state of rest. One of the remarkable things about diaphragmatic breathing is that once you start doing it consciously, you begin to notice how often you're not doing it. You might be sitting at your desk working and suddenly realize that you've shifted back into chest breathing. You might be in a stressful situation and notice that your breathing has become shallow. This awareness itself is valuable. It means you're developing the interoceptive capacity to notice what's happening in your body. And once you notice, you have choice. You can deliberately shift back into diaphragmatic breathing. You can use your breath to reset your nervous system's state. Over time, with regular practice, diaphragmatic breathing becomes more and more automatic. Your nervous system learns that this is the safe way to breathe. Your body begins to default to belly breathing even when you're not consciously thinking about it. And as your baseline breathing pattern shifts, your baseline nervous system state shifts as well. You're literally retraining your nervous system one breath at a time. This is why diaphragmatic breathing is so valuable for people who are trying to create change in their lives. You can be thinking about something stressful, and if you shift into diaphragmatic breathing, you change your physiology and your neurochemistry in real time. You're not trying to think your way out of the stress. You're using your breath to directly shift your nervous system state. And because breathing is something you're doing all day, every day, getting good at diaphragmatic breathing means you have a tool you can access in any moment, in any situation, without any equipment or special circumstances. The practice is most effective if you do it for at least 5 to 10 minutes a day, though even shorter periods can be helpful. You might practice it in the morning to set your nervous system baseline for the day. You might practice it in the evening to help your body transition into rest. You might practice it during moments of stress to help regulate your nervous system in real time. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, and the more benefit you receive. Chapter 9. Vocal Breathing and the Cold Water. Reset. You've learned how to notice what's happening in your body through the body scan. You've learned how to release activation through vibrational shaking. You've learned how to regulate your nervous system through diaphragmatic breathing. Now we're going to explore 2 more techniques that work in slightly different ways, but are equally powerful. One that uses sound to complete your nervous system's activation cycle, and one that uses cold to create a rapid nervous system reset. Sound is one of the most underutilized tools for nervous system regulation. When you were a baby and something was wrong, when you were hungry or uncomfortable or needed attention, you cried or made sounds. Those sounds served a purpose. They were a way for your nervous system to discharge activation energy. But somewhere along the way, most people learned that making sounds was not appropriate. You learned to be quiet, to control your voice, to suppress the sounds your body wanted to make. And in doing so, you lost access to one of the most direct ways to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Vocal breathing is remarkably simple. As you breathe out, you make a sound. This could be a sigh, a long, slow ah sound. It could be a hum, a low, resonant sound. It could be a groan or moan or any sound that feels natural to your body. The key is that you're using your voice consciously. You're allowing vibration to move through your body, and you're giving your nervous system permission to discharge activation through sound. What happens when you vocalize on your exhale? Several things occur simultaneously. First, you're lengthening your exhale, which we know activates your parasympathetic nervous system. Second, you're creating vibration in your body, vibration in your vocal cords, vibration in your chest, vibration throughout your entire system. This vibration sends signals to your nervous system that safety is possible. Third, you're giving yourself permission to make sound, to take up space, to express yourself. And this permission itself is a form of nervous system reset. Many people find that vocal breathing is particularly effective for releasing emotions that have been stuck in their body. You might start making a sound and notice that sadness or anger or grief wants to emerge. You might find yourself crying or laughing or sighing deeply. This is exactly what should happen. Your nervous system is completing cycles that have been interrupted, releasing emotions that have been suppressed, allowing your body to finally express what it's been holding. The practice is simple. Take a full breath in through your nose. As you exhale, make a sound. Whatever sound feels right to your body. You might sigh, hum, groan, or make any other vocalization. Let the sound continue for the entire exhale. Then take another breath and repeat. You can do this for just a few minutes, or you can continue for longer. Many people find that vocal breathing becomes more powerful the longer they practice it, as their nervous system gives itself permission to make more sounds and to release more activation. One of the things that makes vocal breathing so valuable is that it works with the vagus nerve in a very direct way. Your vagus nerve has branches that go to your vocal cords, your throat, your face. When you vocalize, you're directly stimulating your vagus nerve and activating your parasympathetic system. This is why singing, chanting, and humming have been used in spiritual and healing traditions for thousands of years. They work because they directly activate our calming systems. The cold water reset. Now let's talk about a technique that works in a completely different way. One that uses the shock of cold water to create a rapid nervous system shift. This practice is called the cold water immersion. And while it sounds extreme, it's actually one of the quickest ways to reset an overactivated nervous system and to teach your nervous system that it can handle challenge and return to baseline. When your body is exposed to cold water, several things happen. Your nervous system initially activates. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes rapid, you experience a shock. But here's what's crucial. After the initial shock, if you stay with the cold for just a brief moment longer, your nervous system shifts. It's like your system recalibrates. Your body recognizes that this challenge is not actually a threat. It's something you can handle. And as your nervous system completes this cycle, activation followed by resolution, you experience a sense of calm and clarity. The practice doesn't require you to plunge into an ice bath or do anything extreme. You can simply splash your face with cold water. You can run your wrists under cold water. You can take a cold shower for 30 seconds. The key is that the cold is noticeable enough to activate your nervous system, but brief enough that you can stay calm through it. You're teaching your nervous system that it can encounter challenge, activate, and then return to baseline, all within a matter of seconds. What's remarkable about the cold water reset is how quickly it works. Within seconds of cold exposure, your heart rate begins to decrease. Within moments, you feel more alert and more calm simultaneously, a state that's difficult to describe but immediately recognizable once you've experienced it. This is your nervous system completing a stress cycle in real time. This is your body learning that challenge is survivable, that activation is not dangerous, that your nervous system can handle activation and then return to baseline. Many people find that the cold water reset is particularly useful when they're in a state of anxious activation, when their mind is spinning, when their nervous system is stuck in a loop of worry. 30 seconds of cold water exposure can interrupt that loop completely. It's like a reset button for your nervous system. The cold demand is so immediate and so clear that your nervous system stops the worry loop and focuses on the present moment. And when you return to baseline after the cold, you often find that the anxiety has significantly decreased. The practice is straightforward. Find a source of cold water, a sink, a shower, a cold stream, or even a bucket of cold water. Expose part of your body to the cold. Your face, your wrists, or your whole body if you're doing a cold shower. Stay in the cold for between 15 and 60 seconds, breathing slowly and calmly throughout. You want to stay calm through the initial shock. This is the key. Then remove yourself from the cold and notice how your body responds. Your heart rate will normalize, your breathing will settle, and you'll likely feel more alert and more calm. It's important to start slowly with cold water exposure if you're new to this. Don't force yourself into something that feels overwhelming. Start with just your hands or your face. Start with shorter exposure times. Let your nervous system gradually build tolerance and learn that cold is not a threat. Over time, as your nervous system becomes more confident in its ability to handle cold, you can gradually increase the duration or the intensity of the cold exposure. The combination of vocal breathing and cold water reset gives you two tools that work in very different ways. Vocal breathing is about gentle activation of your calming systems through sound and vibration. Cold water reset is about rapid nervous system recalibration through challenge and recovery. Together, they expand your toolkit for nervous system regulation. Vocal breathing is something you can do anytime, anywhere, as many times as you want. Cold water reset is something you might do once a day or several times a week, whenever you need a rapid reset. Chapter 10. Putting it all together, your path forward. You've now learned the foundation of how your nervous system works, how chronic tension becomes structural in your body, and 4 concrete practices that directly shift how your body and your mind function. What remains is understanding how to integrate these practices into your life in a way that actually sticks, in a way that creates real change, in a way that finally breaks the cycle of trying harder and getting nowhere. The temptation at this point is to try to do everything at once. You've learned 4 powerful practices, and your mind might be telling you that the way to maximize benefit is to do all of them every single day. But this is the old trying harder mentality showing up again, and it will sabotage your progress just as surely as it sabotaged your progress in the past. The real path forward is not about doing more. It's about doing things consistently, with full awareness, and with deep permission for your nervous system to change at its own pace. Here's what matters most. Consistency beats intensity every single time. A 5-minute body scan that you actually do every single day is more powerful than a 60-minute practice that you do once a week and then abandon. A few conscious breaths of diaphragmatic breathing that you do multiple times throughout the day is more effective than one intense breathing session. What you're doing is not trying to force change through sheer effort. You're gently, persistently teaching your nervous system a new way to be. Start with one practice. Pick the one that resonates most with you, the one that your body seems to respond to most positively, the one that you can realistically commit to doing every single day. If the body scan speaks to you, if you found the experience of developing interoception powerful, then commit to doing a body scan for 5 to 10 minutes every morning or every evening. If vibrational release felt liberating, if shaking your body to release activation felt like permission you've been needing, then commit to shaking for 2 to 5 minutes daily. If diaphragmatic breathing felt like a tool you can use anytime, anywhere, then commit to conscious breathing practice for 5 to 10 minutes every day. Pick one practice and commit to it for at least 2 to 3 weeks before adding another practice. This is not because the practices won't work faster than this. They will. This is because you need to give your nervous system time to integrate the change, to recognize the new pattern as safe, to make the shift from "this is something I'm doing" to "this is part of who I am." When the practice becomes natural, when it no longer requires your conscious effort to remember to do it, then you can add a second practice. The body scan is foundational in a way the other practices are not. If you're going to do only one practice, make it the body scan. This is because developing interoception, the ability to perceive what's happening in your body, makes all the other practices more powerful. The better you can feel, the better you can sense, the more nuanced your nervous system responses become. So even if you eventually add other practices, keep the body scan as part of your daily practice. Even just 5 minutes every morning can be transformative over weeks and months. As you practice, you'll begin to notice changes that might seem subtle at first, but that are actually quite significant. You might notice that you're not reacting as strongly to small frustrations. You might notice that you're breathing more deeply throughout the day, without consciously thinking about it. You might notice that your shoulders aren't as raised as they used to be. You might notice that you're sleeping better, that you're less anxious, that you have more patience with the people around you. These changes are real. They're evidence that your nervous system is learning, that your baseline is shifting, that your body is finally beginning to trust that safety is possible. There will be days when you don't feel like practicing. There will be days when you're busy and you skip your practice. There will be days when you practice, but you don't feel any obvious benefit. This is all completely normal and completely expected. What matters is that you return to your practice the next day. You're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to do it right. You're simply practicing consistency, learning to trust your own commitment, training your nervous system to recognize that you're genuinely taking care of it. One thing that can be helpful is to anchor your practice to something you already do every day. If you drink coffee in the morning, do your body scan right after your coffee. If you always walk to your car in the evening, use that walk as an opportunity for conscious breathing. If you take a shower every morning, use the first minute of the shower for vocal breathing. By anchoring your new practice to an existing habit, you make it much more likely that you'll actually do it consistently. Another powerful tool is tracking. You don't need anything complicated, just a simple calendar where you mark off the days you do your practice. Seeing that visual record of consistency, watching the chain of days grow longer, is deeply motivating to your nervous system. Your nervous system responds to evidence that you're committed, that you're following through, that you're genuinely taking care of yourself. And as your nervous system sees that evidence, it begins to trust that you're serious about change. As you progress with your practice, as your baseline nervous system state begins to shift, you might find that you want to add more practices. You might want to combine vibrational release with vocal breathing, allowing sounds to emerge as your body shakes. You might want to do diaphragmatic breathing while you take a walk, turning your walk into a mindful practice where you're combining conscious breathing with conscious movement. The practices are flexible. They're tools that you can use in whatever combination feels right for your nervous system. Speaking of mindful walking, this is a simple but powerful practice that integrates many of the principles you've learned. The idea is simple. As you walk, you bring your full awareness to the experience of walking. You notice your feet contacting the ground. You notice the rhythm of your steps. You notice your breathing as you walk. You notice the sensations in your body. You're not trying to get anywhere or accomplish anything. You're simply walking with full awareness. What makes mindful walking particularly valuable is that it combines movement, breath awareness, and interoception in a practice that you can do almost anywhere, at almost any time. You can do it in nature, which adds the additional benefit of connecting with your environment. You can do it in urban settings. You can do it indoors if you need to. It takes no special equipment, no special location, no special circumstances. It's a practice that's genuinely accessible to everyone. The practice is straightforward. As you walk, notice the sensation of each foot contacting the ground. Notice the push-off as you move into the next step. Notice your breathing. Is it becoming deeper as you walk, or does it stay shallow? Notice your posture. Are your shoulders relaxed or raised? Notice your pace. Are you rushing, or are you moving with intention and ease? You're not changing anything. You're simply noticing. You're practicing interoception. You're combining movement with awareness. And as you do this, your nervous system begins to recognize that you're capable of being present, of being aware, of being fully in your body even as you're moving through the world. The real transformation comes not from doing one perfect practice, but from the cumulative effect of many small, consistent acts of self-care and self-awareness. Every time you pause to notice your body, you're strengthening your interoception. Every time you practice one of these techniques, you're teaching your nervous system that you're listening, that you care, that you're committed to helping it feel safe. Every time you show up and do your practice even when you don't feel like it, you're proving to your nervous system that you're genuinely committed to change. This is how you finally break the cycle of trying harder. You stop trying to force change through willpower and effort. You start allowing change to happen through gentle, consistent practice. You shift from a mindset of pushing and forcing to a mindset of listening and responding. You move from being at war with your body to being in partnership with it. And as that shift happens, as your nervous system begins to trust that you're genuinely on its side, the changes become deeper, more stable, and more sustainable than anything you could force through sheer effort. The work you've done by reading this book and learning these practices has given you tools that will serve you for the rest of your life. You now understand how your nervous system works. You now know that you can change your baseline, that safety is learnable, that your body is not your enemy, but your partner in creating the life you actually want. You now have 4 concrete practices that you can use whenever you need them. The path forward is simply one day at a time, one practice at a time, one breath at a time. Your nervous system has spent years, maybe decades, learning to stay in a state of chronic tension and chronic threat. It will take time to learn a new way. But your nervous system is designed to learn. It's designed to adapt. It's designed to shift toward safety when it's given clear, consistent evidence that safety is possible. You are that evidence. Every time you practice, you're providing that evidence. Every time you show up and commit to your own nervous system's well-being, you're teaching it that change is possible. So begin. Choose one practice. Commit to it for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Notice what changes. Trust your body's wisdom. Listen to the signals it's sending. And know that on the other side of this commitment is a version of yourself that can think more clearly, that can feel more deeply, that can create more deliberately, and that finally knows, at the cellular level, that you are safe. That version of you is waiting. All you have to do is begin.